All right. Hope everyone is doing well and had a good Memorial Day weekend. I did. I got a chance to walk through Camas Cemetery yesterday. I'm always impressed with the amount of flags. I believe it was just over 850 that have been placed on the graves by volunteers honoring all the military personnel who served in the United States Armed Services. As someone who never served in the armed forces, I'm truly appreciative of all the freedoms I have as an American due to these men and women's sacrifices. And I just want to thank all our veterans and current military personnel for their services also. Now, the reason for this video, I wanted to follow up from the council meeting earlier this month, and I thought it would be easiest to talk through some of the questions we got then. So here goes. First question, are the newly purchased legacy lands north of Lacamas legally protected for generations to come? If so, what are those protections in legal terms? So yes, there are legal protections for this land. For the Rose property specifically, the seller imposed a covenant on the property for perpetuity that requires only parks and recreation purposes. The Mills property and Wildlife League have similar conditions that the property must be used for public purposes. Booma property has, and the CJ Dens property will have a deed of rights for the public use of property attached to the property deeds as part of accepting Clark County conservation future grants. Next question, how long does the city have to wait until they can start the process to convert a legacy land back to a property that can be rezoned and developed or outright sold? And then the second question kind of goes along with that without referring me to Clark County Preservation's futures. So in Camus's own words, can you or Sean please tell us what the step-by-step process would be for Camus to convert these legacy lands to any other use if they choose to do so? So with both of these questions, no research on these questions has been conducted, as the city has no plans to convert to anything other than public use and for parks and recreation purposes. So the next question is around COVID budgeting. How much will the savings you have already implemented save each month? So what we have currently implemented will be saving the city $191,667 each month. What dollar amounts of your savings are one-time savings versus how much are monthly savings that will last for as long as needed? So the delay in projects and use of cash reserves is the one-time savings, and that's depending obviously on how long we stay under the current shelter in place. We have anticipated the savings to amount to between $2.8 to $4.8 million. Kathy covered this on our May 4th presentation at the council meeting with a little bit more detail. The city had $12 million budgeted for debt payments. Does this include or exclude the debt on the money spent for the Roundabout and for the North Shore land purchases? $17 million added. So the city currently has $7.3 million for budgeted debt services, and the $7.3 million does not include the Roundabout or the North Shore land purchases. We are estimating for 2020 it will be about $150,000 for the Roundabout and about $350,000 in debt for North Shore land purchases. And we're estimating, as we do not know the terms of the debt, what the terms of debt are until the debt is sold on the open market. But in talking with Kathy, I think those are good ballpark figures. The presentation shows the current plan is to spend city reserves, taking it from 37% to 15% in just 3 months. Why? It would appear you're depleting over half of the city's rainy day fund in 3 months. That makes zero sense to me. Furthermore, the plan only shows through the end of July. Why? And I believe the citizen is referring to slide 8 of the May 4th council presentation. And that 15% is annualized projection of reduced revenues from March through July and 2020 budgeted expenditures. This scenario was illustrative of what would happen if expenditures were not reduced. The plan with reduced expenditures would result in a fund balance of 23%. What are the details of the phase 2, 3, and 4? When do taxpayers see the whole plan? Where is the total plan for 2020? What are the budgeted plans for the rest of the year as far as how much needs to be saved? So the current plan assumes the cuts remain in place through the end of the year. We would enter phase 2 of cuts if we sort of drop close to that 17% reserve. And that is when we would need to cut positions. If we still were dropping below after that to that 17% reserve, we would continue to cut programs and just go to essential services. Fortunately, our current projections are looking optimistic, but we are evaluating both daily and weekly. Payroll is the largest city expense, and after land capital projects, when will this be addressed in budget reductions? Cut positions or cut pay? At what budget reserve percentage will these be looked at by the city? So the city is monitoring the financial positions daily, as we said, and we'll reassess weekly whether there needs to be a phase two or we need to go into phase two. We have communicated to staff that if the emergency continues, we may be looking at reductions in services and programs, which relates directly to staffing, and that is possible. We were looking at furloughs, reduced hours, and possible layoffs. But any changes would need to go through our collective bargaining groups for those employees represented. We can't just unilaterally reduce pay or benefits or significantly change working conditions without bargaining the impacts to those members of those bargaining groups. But again, if we were to approach the 17% reserve mark, we will have to make some cuts. Why are the taxpayers funding a North Shore sub-area plan that essentially benefits a small handful of property owners with their entitlements and $11 million sewer line? Are people clamoring to keep spending their money developing they don't seem to want? How much have we spent, and how much more? So there are a few perspectives I want to share around these questions. One of the things I'm very conscious of as we make decisions is that we're not just making decisions for the present, but also recognizing both the history and the future of Camas, and ensuring that we're honoring all of those time periods. And also I'm aware that I'm coming in during the middle of some decisions that have been long in the making, and I want to navigate through those the best that I can. So first on the North Shore, the property owners, or the sub-area property owners, these are families that have lived for generations on this land, some for over a century, and they've been working with the city for years in setting up this area for a cohesive future. This land is already currently zoned for housing and commercial. Right now, if a landowner in the North Shore sub-area were to sell a property to a developer, they would need to follow just the current zoning laws. I'm not a fan of seeing our green spaces and land developed. However, I also recognize that it has shown itself to be, for the last century, here in Camas, that growth is inevitable. Now, if the North Shore stays the way it is, none of the property owners in that area ever want to sell it and want to keep it locked in a time capsule. Great, but if someone does come along to develop, and I feel at some point they will in the future, I want to ensure that we know and have set in place rules for what that growth, the future of Camas, will look and feel like, what the look and feel like of the buildings can be, what the materials can be used, what type of trees are planted, how much natural landscape must remain, what the size of the lots would be implemented, things like that. I want us to work together with our citizens to figure these things out, to bring our ideas and hopes together as a community, and set those rules for what will be allowed to happen for this area of Camas's future. This is all the North Sub-Area Plan is. It's a detailed planning map of how we as a city, plus the citizens, want things to look and feel in Camas. And it's the setting in place the rules for developers to follow. Now, we do not have to do this, and growth would still happen without a detailed plan. Developers would need to follow. Now, as far as the consultant services, we've paid $88,177.04 to date related to North Shore. The contract was originally for $94,225. We do not have additional contract, as I've put this project on hold with COVID currently. In regards to the sewer line, it's not directly connected with the North Shore. The sewer system project serves a larger plan other than the North Shore. In fact, it was put forth just with the current zoning comprehensive plan. The sewer project extends all the way up to Green Mountain, supporting those Camas residences along with Lacamas Lake Elementary School. Next question. Why is the 50-acre property that Camas City Councilors are trying to convince taxpayers is an essential purchase for $12 million on the tax rolls only 2 years ago for $1.6 million? How did we go from the initial promise of $4.7 million, of which only $1.5 million would be from taxpayers? How did the land have its appraised value rise 700% in the same 2 years that we were negotiating to buy it? So the city is not involved in assessing property values. The county establishes the assessed values of property for purposes of imposing the property tax amount. So the Clark County Assessor's Office would be the best place to get an understanding of the assessed values. The city agreed to an $840,000 increase in compensation for consultant for Roundabout project. Don't you wish you had that in the bank today? Was there a cancellation clause in the contract to void and not spend it or get some portions back? So, do I want $840,000 in the bank? Yes, I do. But this money is a little bit different. The way the capital project budget works is the city decides the capital projects we need to do first and comes up with a dollar amount based on the approved projects, and then sets the dollar amount developers pay in their impact fees and system development charges when they get permits. Those impact fees can only be used on capital projects such as the Roundabout. It can't be used for fire or police or repairing streets. So while it'd be nice to get that $840,000, in this case we couldn't use it for anything other than capital projects such as the Roundabout. Now the $840,000 consulting contract in March was specifically for construction support services associated with the Roundabout project. So inspections, submittal review, and things of that nature. And Steve Wall from Public Works would be happy to give any more details if someone wanted it on that. But I will say the Roundabout is one of the highest priority transportation projects in the city, and spending dedicated capital funds on it is appropriate. The contract includes a not to exceed amount, and the consultant gets paid after completing the requested works. And in talking with Steve, the city does not have to spend all the money, and oftentimes consultants do not get paid the full amount, in which case the city keeps the money not spent for future capital projects. What are you going to cut in the areas of our spending to make up for that added $1.6 million in annual loan payments that was borrowed for the North Shore? So the North Shore loan gets paid by the excise tax. I don't believe we will find ourselves in a situation where we would not make enough from the excise tax to pay this bond. Real estate excise tax and park impact fees estimates are projected to meet the average annual debt service payment of $1.1 million for the 2020 limited general obligations bonds. And I'm also feeling confident from the AA plus rating that Moody's, the financial rating system or agency, gave us this year. And it appears so far the housing market seems still strong even with COVID. When will reserves be exhausted? They will not. We will not be dropping below 17% reserve. We'll be making cuts if we need to ensure this. Any reduction at the end of the year are to be budgeted to recover the fund balance in the next calendar year. And again, this is being monitored daily and weekly. We are keeping council in the loop weekly and updating public at each council meeting. Why does the city feel it has the right to interpret citizens' comments as it sees fit? I'm just trying to interpret the point of view given in order to try and to process the comment and be able to meaningfully respond to it or give a meaningful response. Will city add questions, authors, and added locations where videos can be watched so citizens can watch the video and hear citizens express opinions in their own words? We currently provide all the videos of the council meetings as well as other meetings that anyone can go research, but we're currently not doing anything above and beyond that currently or now. And the last question, will the city be hiring the communications manager position? Not currently. The focus right now is getting the right city admin. So, lots of talking, but I hope this was helpful, and I am very much looking forward to getting back to a time where I can see you all in person. But thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.